Okay.
Welcome to the Bird and the Bee.
The
I
nog.
am the bird, aka Colibri.
And I'm the B, short for Brian. This is our inaugural episode of our podcast. Thank you for joining us.
Salud.
We will be covering all kinds of various topics about our life. I guess we should explain the name. The bird, the bird is because your name's Calibri, which is
Which means
Spanish.
hummingbird in several languages. Yeah,
So
French,
hummingbird.
German, Spanish. Yeah,
Insert
that's my
logo.
nickname, the hummingbird.
We want to cover everything from life and death. We picked the bird and the bee because they're pollinators. They love to fornicate and reproduce. Just it's all about life, everything in
Yes.
between and after.
And we're homesteaders, so of course we have a natural living lifestyle as close to nature as possible. And we will be delving into all of that as well. I'm excited.
Do you want to tell them about your new ventures you're venturing into that you're starting to? I'll go after you.
Oh, well, how about you begin? I don't have my words yet. I'm
Okay.
still
Well,
warming up here.
starting my. I've been starting my stand-up comedy journey. I think I started last April. It's what, January? It's almost coming up on a year. Done a handful of shows, a bunch of open mics, a bunch of bombs, a bunch of laughs.
I wouldn't say a bunch of bombs.
I think overall I do well. I have the occasional, like honestly when I'm just trying a new joke is when things don't go that well, but it's all part of the process. And as same with I'm taking the same approach as we do this podcast that we're gonna have some ups and downs. Definitely learning curves is the big thing because this is obviously our first podcast, but I think we have a high potential for success.
Oh,
You're
I
a
love
great
the affirmation in that.
you're a great speaker. I'm working on mine. We're coming out of our incubation, if you will. It's been a long time coming. We've had this in the works for a while, so
Yes, my gestation,
we're not just winging it.
your incubation, my gestation. It's been a long journey. It's been a long time coming, like you said.
I hope you all
Uh,
bear with us as we grow and expand and figure out what we're doing.
yes, yes. As we find our groove, so to speak, in in our purpose-filled journey here.
So yeah, and I'm trying to think like what the audience can get from us. Like we're always gonna try and be honest and vulnerable and just very.
Yeah, speaking of vulnerability, uh, this was very vulnerable with the video production. It adds another layer to just paying attention to our voices and speech and so I did have a little moment before, just feeling a little bit more pressure, needing to release that, and a little bit more. Um, I just want this to be a gorgeous, but also natural production for all of you to enjoy. But like he said, we're going to be evolving with every episode, and I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled to be here, and hopefully we can um, shed some insight on things and bring some esoteric knowledge and some intuitive uh, vision, so to speak, and practice.
Yeah, so let's try to see give them an idea what things we'll be covering. Yeah, like aspects of our life, updates, uh, just things we find interesting that we feel like other people should know, um, nutrition, health.
Yes.
We're
Well.
soon to
Oh.
be the number one health podcast. We
Well.
will.
So we were. You spoke to what you're into right now, and you had asked me
Oh yeah,
initially. So,
our new ventures.
speaking of nutrition, my background is in wellness and I'm an intuitive wellness guide, so to speak, self-proclaimed. I am also a nutritionist and herbalist, and I am I, I have so many things in the going at once, but getting back into my roots after taking a much needed hiatus to focus on some life shifts that we've encountered in the last year and a half, and just finally bringing myself up, rebirthing, breaking ground, and starting to expand again into the world. Right now, I'm working on writing, becoming an author, and also following my path into death doulaship and becoming a birthing doula as well. So, like he said, life and death and everything in between. I also have some side projects that I will be revealing as we go,
Ooh,
possibly.
stay tuned.
Yes. But as far as that goes, just getting closer to becoming a self-sufficient homestead is incredibly important to me, and everything that entails. Wow, we have a lot going on, my love. A lot of
Ever evolving, which is good. We're not one trick ponies.
Yeah, I like to play on this plane, in a holistic nature, and being holistic, wanting to learn and do and create everything possible.
Yeah, I'm trying to think like just the word holistic, how that applies to the sides that we're going to be like, open. Like I'm trying to think what would be like off limits of stuff we wouldn't talk about at least our own immediate lives. But like I don't know, I'm pretty open about stuff, but because and like I was telling you, like I feel like
Right.
the more open and honest we are, that's what the audience, people relate to that, because like the podcast I listen to, like when they're, it just makes you trust them more. You're like, oh yeah, I really like them, and then us being vulnerable allows people to,
Yes.
just trust us and be vulnerable within themselves. And
Yes. I feel vulnerable to vulnerability and in sharing in that, and just our humanness together, having a conversation, getting feedback from you all, and as we go, of course, I will feel more comfortable in sharing. I'm quite open with people I feel comfortable with. This is a definitely new journey for me. I retired from the public a while back, so
what'd you retire
I've been
from?
a pretty private person since. So this is coming into like a more public presence is going to be it's a learning curve for me, but
I think you undersell yourself. Like you're very like Izzy was talking about yesterday, just how
uh-huh.
just unsure of stuff. I'm like,
I'm
don't
not
worry about all that
unsure.
noise and doubt.
I'm
And
not unsure. I'm just unpracticed. But this is exciting. This is fun. I'm excited for the practice, for the evolving practice.
that's good, because I don't know. You're such a great. Honestly, I feel like I can see a lot going forward. You being more, because I don't know. You're a great speaker. You talk for a while. You know how to. Ooh, that was loud. You
That
can
was
very.
loud. Okay, good to know.
People hate that, but we need a
We'll try to edit
swallow.
that
We need
out.
a swallow or like a cough button whenever we like. Oh, we just gotta I don't know, push it away. But I know
Okay.
you're a great speaker, but I think you're just I don't know. You're just selling yourself short. But obviously, as we do it more, you'll be more practiced. Both of us, but more practiced and fluent and.
Yes. I just it's kind of interesting. You're the one that has been more we've kind of shifted and gosh, my words are I'm not warmed up yet, but you're more in the public. You're actually public speaking every week
I know.
now, whereas it used to be me, but now it's you. So we've kind of shifted. What's the word I'm looking for here? We've just
Places traded.
traded places.
Well, it's
Essentially.
been. I'm glad. I'm honestly glad doing that, the comedy, just because. I just the first time going up, like how nervous I was and just like sweating. I'm like, I always have to do those micro pees like, before I do any public speaking. I'm like,
I just
I'll
did
pee
as
like
well.
I'll pee like 10 times, just barely squirting out. I'm like, oh God, again. And then, but once I get on there, that's when I'm like, this is like I'm more comfortable. But it's just the waiting that I hate the most. Like my body, my body is just like feeling it. But I guess, but I don't know because once I start stepping up the stairs, I'm like, okay, like I know my material. I know most of the stuff works if I've done it before. But
I can relate so closely to that, being a retired stage performer myself, and having the little rituals that develop as you go on, the longer that you perform, and just knowing yourself, yes, I'm going to have to pee 5 to 6 times before I go up on
yeah,
stage.
usually I'll like wash my pits a little bit, just because I'm like getting like some nervous stank going, and then I'll pee, and then I'm like I'll do like some squats or something just to like get some energy out. But
Well, you were not joking about getting personal.
yeah, what's to hide?
um, yes, I'm all about lifting that veil. But I do feel there are things that belong to me and that I would like just to belong to me and to us that aren't, that don't belong to the public, just to keep some things for ourselves. I feel like that's important.
Like
The
what?
bodily
Can
functions,
you say
obviously,
that
we're
now?
putting out there.
Can you say those things now so I know going ahead? We'll,
Well, we'll speak about them
we'll
off
start it
air.
on the first episode. We can bleep it out maybe, or we'll just cut. But yeah, I guess one thing we wanted to say was as of right now, the rough general format we have is well, we had like what was it, like intro? Oh, we said weekly recap kind of our lives, just maybe stuff we want to bring, and maybe that transition into
Yes, things that we
top
learned.
because we generally don't have like a rough topic we want to talk about, right? And then bring stuff in,
I
and
like
then
the idea.
tangents
Yeah.
from that, and as we
Mm-hmm.
jump, we do a lot of tangentially speaking. It's a good podcast.
Oh my goodness.
Hey, I read in one of those tips that said
Plug for Chris
I read
there.
one of those tips that remember that tip video. It said mention other podcast names, and I guess the algorithm shit picks that up, but I don't know.
Right, so we should mention whose podcast that is in case anyone isn't familiar.
But then I'm like, I don't want to plug other people. But
I do want to
it's all
plug
about
other
support. Yeah,
people,
we're
especially
not
people that we're interested in and that have influenced us.
Yeah,
That was another thing with the recap of the week that, we listened to quite a few podcasts and also just a ton of research and development during the week. So I want to bring the people we've discovered into our conversations, or the topics of interest that people are probably have delved into deeper, happen to be part of their practice, including nothing is coming specifically to mind right now, but
yeah, we don't want to. I'm definitely don't want to have a scarcity mindset versus abundance. Like, oh, there's only X amount of listeners, so we have to hoard them. But I'm like, yeah, if something we like, we'll tell you about it. We'll say just our like what works for me. I don't know, it might not work for you, but this is what I'm just just present our case. But
yes, so holistically it would be anything from everything that has to do with homesteading, natural living, chemical-free living, a chemical-free home, you know, meditation practice, like we were saying, esoteric knowledge and wisdom, and everyone that we feel inspired by included in that. And hopefully in the future we could get some interviews on going with these people
right.
that we feel resonate with and feel that you would also resonate with. And we are not fully formed, of course, but we're flowing and
metamorphosis stage.
We're emerging and hopefully be blossoming beautifully soon, so that we can give you all some good content, some solid content.
We may be a worm now, but we will soon be a beautiful beetle. Is that what it was? Worm then beetle, right? When we had, what were the mealworms that we were
so gorgeous. So I was growing mealworms. Actually, when we first started in the homestead and we were still renovating, we had them in the bedroom because that was the warmest room in the house because we all slept in there. But watching the stages of the mealworms was fascinating.
Yeah,
And
'cause
then the cute little shiny beetles
at
they
the
turn
time,
into.
I didn't know. I mean, obviously everyone knows about caterpillar to butterfly, but I didn't know worms turned into beetles. Obviously, I
Worms
think it
to
depends.
beetles.
Do all beetles start out as worms?
I don't know that it's all, but it is
Definitely some.
most or many. I don't want to speak to anything I don't know legitimately, but I will say just witnessing, being in witness to more nature closely while homesteading, especially with chickens and especially with breaking ground and learning how to manage soil. We've seen a lot of different types of I love insects, by the way. I really um, wanted to be an entomologist for a while when I was a
What's your favorite
child.
bug
Ooh,
off the top of your head?
I really, off the top of my head, I mean, we're speaking about beetles, and I really appreciate them. They're so necessary. I would say, off the top of my head, what is my favorite bug? Since I was little, I've loved pill bugs or roly-polies. They're so docile and sweet, and they clean our soils from heavy metals, which is even more important today than it's ever been. And it's wild because of all the metals that are in the soils now. I've noticed this abundance, this massive influx of roly-polies. And when I pick something up in the garden and, they're like a piece of wood that I put down to trap the squash bugs, I notice that there's so many now, and they're getting really much larger too.
Well, ever since we started putting wood chips down, which there's a great service called Chip Drop, which they'll come and they'll literally dump
It's my
a
favorite thing.
huge truck, more than you imagine is going to come, a truckload of wood chips and a couple logs and stuff in there. But it's from like tree trimming services, and
Yes.
they
And you can
it's cheaper
request
for them
logs.
to dump it for people than it is to like dispose of it somewhere else. But and so yeah, we had a bunch. Dude, it took me months to like to shovel the pile to like where we needed it.
It's
But
such a good workout for all of us. And our
God,
friends would also come over
I'm
and
so
get in on it. So it's actually a community job. I
farmers
absolutely
workout,
adore it.
baby.
He has not been wanting to get another chip drop, but we need it. We need it for the food forest, for the trees. It really helps with ground cover and keeping them warm in the winter. And then it creates a topsoil that's so rich because when we first moved here, we didn't even have topsoil. It was just where the prior residents, excuse me, had tied off their horses. So the trailer that was on the land was actually completely dilapidated, should have been torn down. I mean, it was condemnable, but we made it livable, which was amazing. But when we first moved here, there was nothing but hay and clay.
When it would rain, it would literally, because we're on a slight slope, it would literally just be like a river through
Just
there,
a
like
torrent
yeah,
of
and like
water.
you
It was
can and you
torrential.
can tell the wood chip, it literally stopped. Like it helps keep the water.
It
It really
does.
keeps the soil because like
And
without
it
it,
keeps
it
it
just
moist.
washes away.
Right. It keeps it moist because we live in the Blackland Prairie where what they call the soil is called gumbo. So it's very black, it's very nutrient dense, it's very rich. So it's amazing for fruit trees and all of the things that we're growing about. But what happens is Texas is like high desert, and it's becoming more like high desert now where we live in Texas. And so
Wow.
what happens is that whenever it's wet, it turns into jello, and then when it dries out, it starts cracking. So the cracking's really terrible for the fruit trees. So we have to keep a layer of protection. And now the grass started growing back a couple years ago. So that's been wonderful. So that's actually good for the water retention. But wood chips are always incredibly good for water retention as well as for, I mean, people, they go and they buy bags and bags of mulch, which creates a lot of plastic trash. So it's really much more beneficial to get fresh wood chips, fresh mulch from
And it's
Chip Drop.
local.
Yeah, and it's local,
Do you remember
and
that when
everything about it is so wonderful.
someone was talking about our soil, and they said because like when it rains, it drenches, and it turns from uh jello to concrete within like days.
Yes.
Mainly in the summer because like it's like soggy, and then like
Yeah.
and then a few days it's like cracked. You can like
It's
see it. And it's so
wild.
hard, but
Yeah, when it
digging is not fun when
when
it's
it
like
dries
that.
and cracks too, it's these massive crevasses that you could just see straight down into. It's wild. It's wild. They'll be, inch to about an inch wide sometimes, right? Where you could just see so far down into. Sometimes I stick sticks down into them to see how far they go. And essentially, that was one of the problems with our septic.
But that's what we mainly. So I'm gonna speak on like how we, our orchard, because like how much that's changed. Maybe
Yeah, it's
maybe in the
actually more of a
future,
food forest
in the
than
future
an
when I
orchard.
like look up some stuff, we can put like a, this perfect green scheme. We can put like a pre and post what it looked like. Do we? Because I know we have old pictures of it, and then all the fruit trees we put, all the chickens
Oh
and
yeah,
turkeys we have in there to like just fertilize it, but
I've been documenting.
how lush it is, and
Since day one, we
because
have
we have what,
documents.
2 apple trees, a jujube,
Figs,
figs,
plums,
3 plums,
apricot,
an apricot, and mulberries,
and mulberries,
and 1 pomegranate,
and tea tree. Well,
tea
she's
tree,
not doing so well right now, but
manuka,
we'll bring her back.
and
Yes.
those chase berries, but they
Mhm.
I mean that's mainly just for pollinators, bringing in the bird and the
Bamboo.
bees.
Yes, we
Yeah, lots
have.
of bamboo. Too much. we had a we had a
Oh,
mild
the bamboo journey.
when we first moved here. It was very exposed because it's just kind of like prairie, old farmland. But and so when we moved here in the winter, it was like winter bear time, and we felt
January,
very
actually. It's
very
5 years on the 31st.
we felt very exposed. So we ordered like 30 bamboo clumps, and it was in a ridiculous amount. But honestly, it's grown a lot slower than I've expected. But
Yes.
sometimes you see those rhizomes going, and I'm like, it gives us mild panic attacks. We're like, oh,
Yes.
because we just don't want it shooting into the neighbors and stuff.
It
But
initially gave me a lot of anxiety. I used to have nightmares about it.
now, yeah, it's great. Like, cause seeing like blocking on the east side, like just it's because honestly, those have been like the main bushiest ones, and it's so nice how much they block and protect us.
Well,
So
we've put a lot of mental energy towards those, just like directing them there because we have a neighbor that
it's like
is,
facing
is
us.
too close for comfort, honestly. And then we used to be rural, and now we're definitely considered sub-rural because what happened is they changed the law so that they were able to start selling every 2 acres. So now all of the affluent people are coming out here and they're building estates and mansions every 2 acres. So now we are this, it's kind of like that house that's in New York that's in between all of the skyscrapers, and it's just this tiny little house. We're essentially like that now. We're just this little trailer, this little, acreage plot surrounded by massive estates. It's wild, and now the airport that's pretty close is becoming more commercial. So now we have that. So there's all these thorns being pushed in the nest. I want to start a Patreon to start.
I was just about to say, please subscribe to our
Please.
new about to be formed Patreon to help us achieve more of our homesteading goals. Because, like I said, it sounds like we have, but obviously we just put a lot of time and effort into everything we've described. But obviously we're trying to get more ideal to where we want to go. But so hopefully you guys keep staying tuned, and we can help support us, and we'll try to offer other stuff. Just because, like, if we have a Patreon, we have to, what are we gonna do, like an extra hour? We're gonna have just bonus stuff.
Yeah, I can think of all sorts of
maybe
things.
personalized,
Swag.
yeah. Well, I mean they have to buy that, but
Merch.
personalized, maybe like consultations or.
Oh, I can definitely do that. I'll offer my services for sure.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I mean, we'll figure that as we go. But like, what else we can do? Because we'll probably have like a tiered subscription kind of thing. Well, obviously we'll always have a mostly free like hour or so.
Yes.
We're trying to shoot like an hour or so per episode, roughly.
Well, we'll see.
I mean, it
I
depends.
have a hard time
varies, but-
setting, strict parameters on things.
Hey,
I
man,
like to see how we just flow.
Well,
but-
our first practice one we did. Remember, we did like 3 hours. I'm a regular day
Yeah,
Joe Rogan over here.
We were really flowing. It was really nice. But this is our practice homestead. I wanted to
Right.
mention. This was never meant to be permanent. This is where we, practice all our skills and, like earth building and creating a food forest. Now we've had chickens for 5 years now, and we have a steady flock of 30 to 50 chickens at a time. When we get too many roosters, we have to cull them, of course, but that creates a lot of meat for the freezer. And I will tell you guys, if you didn't know this, And if you heard, rumor or urban legend about how roosters taste, roosters are amazing. It's much more dark meat. It's much richer. I really like what people would call the gaminess of it. It just has more natural flavor to it.
The legs, man.
So
Ooh.
I do suggest.
I don't know why they get a bad rap, but maybe it's
They
just from
do. I don't
maybe it's
understand.
just from like raising them or something. But I'm like I don't
I think
understand
it's
why
just how
you
spoiled
wouldn't.
we are with the meat industry now. Everything is unrecognizable and wrapped in plastic in the stores, so people are really far removed from, organ
Death.
meats and death and what is really available within nature. The roosters provide us a lot of meat.
Yeah, and it's very like like just the same thing as like hunters. Like when you like, and honestly, like how fresh of meat we get when we harvest a bird, and then obviously we have to like clean it, take it apart, and then to eat it that day, it's like it's almost. I don't know. Has so much more, and we raised it. It's one thing if you hunt,
Yeah,
you just see it, but
it's a very fulfilling ritual.
yeah, and
Yeah,
yeah, it's
yeah. So the Patreon would be for us to be able to get a larger swath of land so that we can do a lot more of what our goals are, what our visions are for land. It would be wonderful to be able to get a much larger swath.
yeah. So hopefully they know like for anybody who does subscribe, it's not like oh the money's just going to like our we're gonna buy a new Mercedes or something like at least because hopefully
No.
people who would listen are things who want to support people like that and want to and
Yes.
they'll see like hey guy and especially if we have like a even if like whether it's our website or social media whatever if we have
Yes.
like say this is our target and then like they can see how much we're going and stuff so
Well, we have a lot of plans for that land, and a lot of that involves community and education as well, and
right.
also
It's not just
providing
us. Yeah, we want to
services. It's
have
not just
not a
us.
commune, but a communal type situation. Obviously, with people we love and trust, but and people who want to work with land and want to not aren't just
Yes.
city people who.
And there's a large, beautiful movement in this. If you are tuned into homesteading and if you're tuned into wanting to unplug and to
Rewild.
rewild yourselves and become more in tune with nature.
That
And
reminds. Oh, sorry.
no, go ahead.
Oh, it just reminds me of. I mean, it's somewhat related, but that whole idea of when I think they called it going native. Whenever the
Aye.
pilgrims came over here, and they're all living in their shitty little whatever they're living in, and then some people got kidnapped by the Native Americans, different tribes, but and then some. And so of course they're like, oh, we got to go get them back. And then when they
Right.
come back, they're like, man, I enjoyed it more living with the natives, like that kind of
Yeah.
lifestyle. And they literally had to make laws to prevent people from running away and living with the natives. And so, I don't know, just and I'm trying to think of things like that now, where like I heard
Hmm.
like how they try to do like I heard like raw cow's milk is illegal in most states.
Oh,
Just
yes,
raw
my
milk.
sister and I
It's
speak to this a lot.
illegal to definitely. I know it's illegal to
Hmm.
cross state
Unpasteurized
borders,
because
but
they deem it unsafe, but that should be the choice of the people. I believe you should have access
I know they
to
want
all things.
just I don't know. I like the notion of things that how they have to prevent us from doing stuff to like literally making laws about stuff to
Yeah.
about natural things.
I would much rather spend double the amount on raw goat's milk cheese than, buy some nasty
Sad
processed.
cow.
Yeah, and it
I mean, we don't
being
really drink that much
local
dairy,
and
but in general, but
no, we don't drink dairy, but I do love cheese. I have an affinity for cheese. Yeah. Queso es mi favorito.
oh yeah, we've been what day are you on? We're
I
big.
just
Hopefully,
completed my 75-day streak on
hopefully
Duolingo.
Duolingo can sponsor us because I have a 6 day streak. You have like 70 what?
75. I just got 75 today, which is a big mile marker.
See, this will be our maybe that's like a little segment we could do every because I don't know we're probably gonna do it. We're shooting for every once a week, if not definitely like bi-monthly. But that could be a segment we could do as like a personal recommendation, whether it's a book, a movie, like an app or something. Like this week it's learn of all the time you spend on your phone. Just what do they say? Like 15 minutes a day, you can learn a whole nother language, and which obviously we took Spanish
Yes.
growing up, but
They make it so interactive and so fun, and they've designed it in such a way that the incentives keep you motivated. It's more like a video game, but then there's this aspect of community that's in it as well. So you can't talk to other people, but you can befriend one another and keep each other motivated through just witnessing everyone's progress. That's a lot of fun. And then the competition, I realize that I'm much more competitive than I had initially.
I gotta get out of the demotion zone. I need to. Because they
Yeah.
do, yeah. Because I mean, because like when you get like even like you start a 10-day streak going, just doing it, it can as little as like 3 minutes a day. But once you get that going, you see your number going, like, oh, I don't want to
Yeah.
lose my number, and they have like this like league. It's kind of like in pro soccer, they have like all these leagues, and you can get promoted or relegated based on
Hmm.
how you do. But and so that incentivizes you to like, oh, I gotta like keep going, and
Yeah.
I
I
don't know,
feel
it's a
like
cool
we've.
app. But
It is cool.
I've reinvent because I remember I took a lot in high school and college, and then obviously it's classic. If you don't use it, you lose it. And then, so just doing it every day. I remember specifically one time our friend Roshni came over and she pulled out a pen out of her bag and it was like a moon. It had like, it was a
The
cool pen.
celestial.
And then
Yeah.
in my head, I was like, Boligrapho. I'm like, that's a, and I was like, oh, I'm
So
actually
you're starting to think
thinking,
in Spanish.
yeah, throughout my
I love that.
daily work. And I want us to,
Hmm.
like, as a family, go to a hole in the wall Mexican restaurant and just only order in Spanish and just to practice because
Yeah, that's a goal. That's like a almost a reward for us whenever we all
right.
feel confident and comfortable enough to be able to do that. And it's like this wonderful challenge. That's another thing about it is that the whole family is involved, which is so great because it keeps us all accountable. But then um, we have this thing we all do together, so it creates a lot more union, especially with teenagers, which is what we have. To keep them, when just to have something that we all participate in together on a regular basis and keep each other accountable, and we have goals, and I just think it's just so wonderful all the way around. Uh, and then just the added benefit of learning a new language, because I would appreciate possibly moving part-time to Mexico at some point. I would.
I feel like at some point in our life we might expat or just yeah definitely live somewhere else.
It's a
But
glimmer. It's just like a small idea. So I'm sorry for my shaking. If you guys can hear it in my
no,
voice,
it's
it's
just because your
seeming.
chair's hitting the. It's
Yeah.
so when you're like
It's just cold in here. I don't think we mentioned
you're
where.
excited, so you're like
Yeah, I don't think we mentioned where we're recording from. This is our love shack. This is our tiny home, essentially our studio and bedroom that B and I live in. That's another. I guess we could be considered a bit of a compound now. I'm not sure
yeah. In the
because
summer
we have two living dwellings now.
when it's warm, there's a
Yeah.
roll up door right behind us, so we might if we're not using the green screen, we might roll it up just so you can see
Yeah.
because it's just trees right here. I mean, there's a road, but it's not busy
Hmm.
at all. But so and so our set will change too as with our programming. Which I was just looking over here, and that's one thing I wanted to mention real quick was how we have like these segments and stuff but we also might because we're toying with whether the podcast will be like informational slash presentational or like you know conversing and exploring and interviewing and like just seeing what comes out of people. So which I think I want to do like a blend of both, but
Same. I would love to see it evolve into everything that we could possibly dream of. I would appreciate input as well, as far as
yeah, we'll set something up because
from you guys,
we'll
from you
set
all.
something up where people can either like obviously their social media they can just write, but I want to do
Right.
something where they do like a voice recording on just on your phone, no nothing and send it in, and then we'll have a thing where we can play it on here,
Yeah,
so we
we
can
could
hear it,
feature if
and
you
then
have
so it gets
something
yeah it gets more
important to
engaged and
add. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really appreciate the engagement aspect. That's going to be fun. I'm just excited to see what everything evolves into. We're pretty novice and unpolished, which I
that's the
appreciate. I don't
beauty.
like a lot of, you
Yeah,
know,
high
I
production.
have a bit of a perfectionist quality as me as a person, but I, like I said, we're not fully formed, and we just wanted to get into it. We just wanted to delve into it, and this is very new to both of us. So
Yeah, 'cause I heard
I just wanted, just we're humans and we're all figuring this thing out, but I really wanted to start it, even though we're working on learning how to become better podcasters every day. But uh, I'm just really grateful that we've begun. This is exciting.
me too. Yeah,
Yeah.
'cause I heard I heard David Cho talk because his podcast was very, just talk and go, but and he was talking about he went to uh that I don't even know if it's still around, but that podcast, The Nerdist, it was like with that
Yeah,
Chris
we just saw them
Hardwick.
in the documentary.
Yeah,
But
he was because he was talking about like he's like visited the guy and then like they had like teams of writers in the back and then like versus them just like hitting record and let's talk for so which I will definitely be more of that approach, but I mean obviously we'll be try to be prepared, try to have stuff where
yes,
we're not just swinging it, but
our production value will,
it's a blend of spontaneousness and preparedness. So I feel, but
which is beautiful. I feel that that's a wonderful balance. I feel that that's much more authentic. I just really appreciate authenticity. I think essentially that's why I was a little not anxious, just not as relaxed going in because of how much production goes behind putting this out to the people and just the nature. I know that the nature of our people that listen to this will be the people who this is meant for. And so you will not put as much emphasis on how we appear, but do expect high production value as much as we can do
I mean,
within the
look at this
limits
fancy
of,
green screen, man.
hey, we're going to
Yeah,
try
hopefully we'll
to
either
make this
hopefully
a cool background
yeah
for you
whenever
all.
it might be going right now because if I do this in post production it might be like playing right now, but hope the idea is to just have this as an ambient background, but if we like pull up if we talk about a video or a clip or something, hopefully it's playing right here as we speak, but obviously that's like post production, but
Yes.
so that's the whole goal of this. But
Is there anyone you would like that you discovered or that you thought of this week within your learning journey that you'd like to speak to or
interview wise,
speak of? As far as just mentioning, maybe. Can you think of anyone off the top of your head or?
like to for people to check
Oh
out
my
or
gosh, I have a whole list of people I'd love to interview eventually.
the first one
Um,
that comes to my head, I don't know if that's even what you're asking me. Is to, I don't know if you are you asking me who would we want to interview, or because that's one thing the podcast is gonna make us expand, reach out, like hey, let's actually try to like talk to this person and like if it's a topic we're interested in, like let's not an expert, but just someone who's way more down that rabbit hole, so we don't
yes.
have to like spend hours just doing our own research. But obviously, it's something we're somewhat informed in, so like to talk to someone else in
Yes.
depth about something. But I don't know. I was
Laurel
thinking.
Erica would be like,
Yeah,
sorry,
hopefully that'd be number. Hopefully that's up there. Yeah, that she's definitely reachable. But I was thinking of
our fairy
Joe
godmother of
Hutto.
words. Joe
Is that he
Hutto.
wrote that book over there? The it's like Illumination in the Flatwoods, and he was in
Ah,
this
yes.
documentary called My Life as a Turkey, and
Yes.
it's that's maybe that's my first trek after Duolingo is that documentary because it's super fascinating because there's two elements to it because he did this originally and then they had to recreate it and redo it, but he lived with turkeys, or he like someone put some turkey eggs on his porch one day and he raised them, and they he was basically like their mom, and so he he would literally like go up in the trees with them. He wouldn't sleep there, but until like nightfall came, but and
Do
it's
you
an
remember the name of the documentary? Let's pull that up, I
yeah,
think,
My
so
Life
we
as a
can.
Turkey.
My Life as a Turkey,
And
right.
it's
Okay.
fascinating, yeah, because he
It
just lives
really
with them,
is.
and then it shows just how smart they are, and then the dynamics of it, and how I'm not gonna spoil, but how it ends, and then there's a big
Yes.
dramatic part, but and then he also did one part where he lived with deer for these mule deer.
That was the second
I don't remember what
documentary.
state that one was.
Hmm. Wasn't that Montana?
Yeah, I don't remember what it was called, but yeah, he was.
We'll find
It
out
took
for
him
you
like
guys. We'll
years to
put it
even
in the
get
post production.
comfortable. Click the link below. But he like lived with deer for a long time and got super close to him and got like just one little highlight to show how close he got. He one time he was like one of the deer was pregnant, gave birth, and one of the deer came and grabbed, got him, like was making noise, and he followed the deer into where his the little fawn was, and she was
Yes.
showing him the baby. That's how like close he was with them, and it
The
shows like
trust and the
the higher.
bond was so intense that he had to quit recording and leave them because it was too much.
Well, it was just too heartbreaking, but I don't want to
Too
spoil it.
heartbreaking. Oh, I won't spoil. Sorry,
But yeah,
spoiler alert.
he yeah, it's amazing because it's
Right.
so much time and commitment to do that,
Speaking of people
and it
who,
showed the social dynamics. It was like it was
yeah,
a matriarchy, which I didn't know. I had no idea. You always think like the buck's in charge, but it's really one of the there's like a head doe.
Right, there were a lot of misconceptions that we had had prior, and a lot of things that we just weren't even aware
Yeah, and
of. That they're
even
they're more omnivorous, and that they're uh, the hierarchy
there's this little
is
funeral.
very much it's very different than we had initially thought. Speaking to people, the first person that comes to mind for me, uh, people who have made an impact and work with animals. My initial dream would be Carol Ruckteschel, and from Cumberland Island. She is mainly responsible for the protection of sea turtles on the eastern seaboard, and she lives kind of as we do, even more
She
in
lives off
tune.
roadkill.
She lives off roadkill, and she's actually the reason. All right, now we're getting real personal. We might lose some people to this, but she started eating roadkill when she was about 5 years old. There's this book called Untamed. I can't remember the name of the author right off the top of my head, but I'll put it in the link, the description. But she started eating roadkill when she was about 5, started living in caves because her home life was quite unsavory and wasn't in tune, in alignment with who she was. So she spent a lot of time living out in the woods, and she would feed herself by going and finding fresh roadkill. She even spoke to eating it up to 3 days after kill, and that she was absolutely fine. She's one of the healthiest women that the author had ever met. He was a, what do you call it? Anyway, he worked with the forest protection service out there, the Parks and Rec. And just this book is so incredible. She would be a wonderful woman to interview. That would be a dream for me. She's just so, she walks barefoot like I do, and she swims with the sea turtles. She's not afraid of, she's just fearless, and it's beautiful. I love her whole journey. Yeah, that would be one person.
Are you gonna speak on the part that you said that's gonna maybe lose people?
Oh, well, it was the roadkill that she eats roadkill to this day. Like that's her meat source, because she wasn't willing to kill animals in order to eat. So she thought that it was much more humane to eat. Oh, okay. So we decided that something's up with the camera. It keeps telling me something about the power.
It's got a low battery up there, so I'll have to swap it real soon. But
okay, yeah.
Just after this story.
Okay, so we actually started experimenting with roadkill some years ago when we first started moving out here, and we were rewilding ourselves. We got really deep into rewilding. We were going out on the kayaks and catching fish, and then he started bow hunting, and I would catch them in the river, in the creek, and we started pulling up fresh roadkill like squirrel.
Yeah, it started with squirrel.
I think the last one, and squirrel is delicious. Okay, and if you're from the south east here in the United States, that's actually very common, especially in the Appalachians. Like squirrel is a very common dish, and it's delicious. It tastes a lot like dark meat chicken, but mixed with red meat. It's like really rich and really kind of sweet, and almost it looks like a quail. I mean, it's kind of funny whenever you take the fur and the skin off of an animal, they all pretty much look the same.
Oh, yeah.
And they all pretty much taste the same.
Real quick, whenever
essentially.
Quick story, when I was dealing with some it was like frozen liver I had where I was trying to make it for the dog, and I had this steak knife and I was stabbing it to try to unbreak it, and then I was getting angry because it was taking so long, and I was stabbing it, and I went boom, and I stabbed my hand, and I had this huge wound open, and I remember at one point I could see the muscle in my hand, and I was for a second before I got a little woozy from my blood loss. I remember thinking, "Wow, that looks just like squirrel meat or just like any type of meat." And I was like, "It's yeah," but like you're saying, once the fur, the feathers are gone, I'm like, dude, it's meat. But
let me give you a little bit deeper perspective on this story. That was during one of the biggest freezes here that we've had in like 12 years in Texas. It was Snowmageddon, and our power went out, and we didn't have any backup heating, and it was like 19 degrees in the house.
This was pre-wood stove we had.
All our plants froze. I had to stuff his meat back in his hand and super glue it shut.
Like a tendon,
because he wouldn't. I had to push a tendon back in, all his meat, stuff it back in, and then glue it shut. And then because his hand was at, it could have gotten gangrenous, and
Oh,
his
amazing.
gloves
Infected.
wouldn't fit over his hand. So I put several socks over his hand, and we stayed in bed for like 2 days with the dog trying to stay warm because we couldn't drive anywhere. It was a very,
That
very,
was
very
horrendous.
intense. We prayed together. That was a beautiful
Oh yeah.
thing. We actually
What do we like
prayed
ask
together.
for? We're just asking for help or something, or is it assistance, or just I don't. Yeah, I remember, but
We were, and we're not religious people, but deeply spiritual. And I do, for lack of a better term, pray.
yeah, like I would
Uh,
definitely would put a name or a label on anything, but
no,
there's definitely something
but we
beyond
did
us.
ask
But
for the energies
yeah.
and protections to make sure we made it through that. Um,
Oh God.
that was an. We'll speak more to that another time. I think we need to change out the
But
battery
real
right
quick, yeah,
now.
and then this whole roadkill led to us finding a deer where I had been like bow hunting down the road, but there's obviously a recently a dead deer. You could tell it got hit because it's like its forearm was just bent backwards, but and that led to us with our friends shoving him in our trunk. I remember when cars were driving by, we like
Yes,
made like a human shield because we're like
right. And
trying
we
to
didn't know it at
get
the
in there.
time that it was not legal to pick up roadkill and bring it home. And I don't find anything wrong with that at all. I mean, it would have just gone to waste, and it fed us
For
for
months, dude.
months, the whole
Fresh
winter.
venison.
It fed
Ooh.
us for the whole winter. And we were working the farmers markets at the time, and there was only one market that was open, all seasons. So in the wintertime, our work kind of falls off. We're also art models and figure models, and so our work's a little bit more slow in the winter. So that actually provided us with so much food. It was, and we got to have this experience with two friends that were very green in processing and harvesting animals. So that was like this wonderful bonding with
Yeah,
these
really
young
was.
these young little basically niece and nephew that were living with us at the time. We were helping them out in their transition because they were unplugging from the matrix as well. And man, just stringing up the deer over the fire pit in the back behind the house, and everyone cleaning and
Pulling the
and I'm
skin
showing
and the
everyone how to skin the deer and how to piece it and how to gut it. And that was a gorgeous experience I will never forget.
yeah, I love from the rooster to the roadkill to that like the connection to the food. Like whenever that's in the free and like whenever you eat it and like I don't know, it just
Yeah,
makes food way more just valuable. Like have
it does. It
it's
makes you appreciate it a lot more.
yeah, because it's you know the source of it. It's not just in
Hmm.
some prepackaged thing and there's a picture of something that says I mean you can buy ground venison at like Whole Foods, but like that versus like having a big hunk in your freezer, it's like
But from
so much more.
beginning to end,
Yeah.
it makes you appreciate that meat so
Then it's like
much
nourishing
more.
you and nourishing your loved ones. It's like, ugh,
Yes. And creating so many and learning so many
not from a
recipes
factory.
about how to cook venison and about how to I really love I can't it's so interesting to me that people are like, "Oh, I can't stand the gaminess." But what I think is actually is they're just too used to factory farmed animals that are really plain in their flavor and, almost toxic.
Just meek, yeah.
Just like just factory processed meat. It is so much different than whenever you process it yourself. That flavor of that deer was, I haven't had that since I was a little girl when I used to go deer hunting with my grandfathers. And I don't know, that brought it. And just seeing everyone enjoy it and being able to cook for everybody was, oh, it's just precious. Mm.
Yeah, it was. I don't remember us eating. I don't remember if we did with the liver, but I remember eating the heart. The heart was amazing. But anyways, let me
Yeah, let's
check this
change out.
battery real quick. It's a good
Okay.
time. All right, sync. All right, and we're back after a little
So,
pee break.
yeah,
Got a little fresher, new batteries.
we left off at, we were speaking to
Roadkill.
roadkill, more things about us, the introduction of us. Where shall we go now from there?
Well, we got from interview people you want to reach out to or what kind of guests we want to have or because what's your opinion on like obviously it's a lot more technical setup, but if we do like
Yes.
I want to try to avoid as much as we can, but obviously it'll lend us to reach more people. But
Ooh.
Zoom interviews, like I want to do, like I want, obviously I'd rather try to do more local and people we can actually be in person with, because it's, in person's better conversations.
Yes,
But
so
if we
interviews are definitely on the docket, so look forward to that.
obviously the two we just named aren't here, so that would have to be that. But
Right. I'll see what we can do about those
because we
two.
know, like as we're talking about like art modeling, we know a lot of artists around DFW, a lot of
Yes.
comics, but some comics I don't know.
But speaking to just the holistic nature of ourselves and our interests and the way that we live, just the way our lives are set up, we have some interesting folks to speak to that are in our circles and that are doing the good works within the world as well. Oh, look at your beautiful face. They're doing good works and they all have some sort of project happening, and I'd really like them to be able to, or I'd feel honored to be able to interview them and speak to what they're doing and see how we flow with people. I would also like your feedback on things that you all would like to hear more of. If you'd like to hear more about gardening or animal care or building natural buildings. Right now, Bee's building a shed, recycling it from this old dilapidated shed that was coming down, and he's doing a great job. It's this adorable little coop, and we're going to start practicing building bottle walls, which is exciting because that's been a long time coming. We saved up far too many bottles for projects we could do here on our little swath of land, but I don't know.
Yeah, it'd be good to. I mean, well, I used to live out in Taos where all the earthships are, and I think that's where they pioneered the just using glass bottles as bricks. And, they have a nice effect because they if you cut them and then put them together, like, it allows light to come through, which is
Yes.
beautiful. But and obviously they use like the big tire walls, but that's because
Yes.
the tires are a huge waste in our society. But I don't know, that's like a whole another endeavor. But
It is.
it's
I'm
very
wanting to also,
labor intensive, but everything's way
yeah.
cheaper though. But
I'm also wanting to experiment with creating our own brick, especially out of this gumbo, and see how that happens, how that goes, with how it acts in different seasons, and the climates. And then wattle and daub, just all the experimenting with every sort of
earth bags,
natural building. Yes, I want to make an earth bag dome
that's who
because
we
I
could
would really
interview.
love to do this for birthing huts. Just a simple earth bag dome so that women can come
Billy and Ben
and
know
I can
that
help.
the people doing that, like in I think as they said Denison, I think.
Oh yes,
So we
isn't
get
that with the yes? That's with
rainbow.
the rainbow gathering, the drum circle, and the native sweats, native style sweats that they do out there, and that's also in a natural dwelling. It's more like an in-ground. I can't remember the technical term for it, but it's an in-ground clay covered or cement covered hut that you walk down into. It's very earthen, very homey. They're hopefully our friends, well, our family. They're called the. Oh goodness, I just forgot the name of the farm. It's like Calhoun. I'll come back with it. I'll probably list it in the description as well. But they have a great little farm, and Billy and Sharon just started inviting homestead children, or I mean homeschooling children out to learn how to grow plants and their own food. And she's starting tilapia ponds.
Oh yeah.
Um, so they're kind of like the next incarnation of what we want to do. So I learn a lot from them as well, and just witnessing their evolution on their farm. But we have turkeys now. Speaking to animals that we harvest, that's been quite a journey. Turkeys,
I've been trying to breed them, but that's been
ugh, they are
we
so
got wiped
difficult to
out.
breed. If anybody breeds turkeys, please, we'd love some tips and tricks for
Well,
how
I
to
think
help facilitate that.
I think it's a lot easier if you pen them in, but we free range all our birds and the turkeys. They sleep on top of the chicken coop, and then we always had a couple chickens that would sleep in the trees, but we were getting wiped out by predators for like a month. they took out all the birds that slept outside. It was a mix of possums and bobcats that we've had encounters with,
And
and they
raccoons.
took out our both. What happened to our first? No, we harvested the first turkey,
Raccoons have
but
been
they
brutal.
took out our last. Yeah, and they took out our last Jake, our last male turkey.
Oh, my baby Cloud. He was a lavender slate, and I really wanted to breed lavender slates. I'm kind of into this. I don't know if you call it like eugenics of chicken breeding, but I really appreciate certain colors and just the demeanor. It's very interesting how the demeanor changes with chickens according to their color, which I never knew. I didn't even realize that. But there's certain types of mixes and breeds that of course are they have different. I'm really glad that I know this might sound a little harsh, but I'm really glad that we kind of weeded out the the more unruly chickens that were that just we couldn't very domesticate or get them to sleep inside. I love that they were, feral, but it was really challenging with all of the wild creatures that live around us. Like, man, I almost caught up to the bobcat about a week ago. I don't know what I was going to do once I caught the bobcat, but but it took off with one of our last chickens that slept outside. And I'm kind of glad that we're not breeding all of them because we have the tamer, more manageable ones left.
Yeah, it reminds me. I was trying to write a joke about how owning chickens is kind of like being like I understand like dictatorship governments now because you got to snuff out the rebels and the ones that go out too far, and then you kill the boys and you what else?
Hmm.
But it
Interesting.
really put in perspective. 'Cause I was like the one because we'd have birds that would come out and they'd like just go into our garden and like kill all they'd sprout because they like dirt bathe and sometimes they eat the sprouts, but and they just like wrecked everything. So like whenever there's
Mm.
ones that just keep going out and sometimes they'll lay eggs in random places and it's like a real Easter egg hunt. But so sometimes I'm like, all right, this one's got to go because it's becoming a problem. Like every day they just like
Right.
their whole focus they'll just walk the line just trying to get to where they like on the other side of the fence. But
They do make it easier to decide who to harvest, though, which
yeah,
ones to harvest. So it's just this. It's kind of like a. It helps us out because it's just a natural selection at that point. Well, this one's creating a lot of issues, and we can't have chickens digging out our livelihood. Our food, our growing food. Um, because it seemed like every time I got seedlings going and it really got the garden going, they would figure out a way to get into it because I don't have it completely enclosed or caged in. So that was just, oh, so incredibly frustrating. But we're getting it. It's a practice. Like I said, um, January 31st, it'll be officially our 5th year homesteading. So,
really.
and what Lila had said was, hey, you guys are really smart. You were a couple years ahead of the curve of everybody, unplugging and going back to the land. And yeah, I have seen this huge surge since pre-pandemic that of people going back to the land.
Well, I remember us having this conversation with the girls. I remember saying before everything happened, I was like, what would happen if there was just no food in the grocery stores anymore? Like we just go up and there's shelves are empty, and then
Mm-hmm.
sure enough, like obviously there was stuff there, but people were like overbuying, and like it was just things got a little nut. People were concerned for about food for a while, and I would
Oh,
hear all
we
these
were?
other people talking about food shortages coming and like all these farms burning or not burning, but
Right.
like food processing plants burning. There's a bunch. There's like a whole. There was like 30 of them or something crazy like that for a while. And
Right.
I remember just kept thinking I was like, any day now that might because I've heard people say like there's only like 3 days worth of food in like all the grocery stores like at a given moment. So I remember thinking
Yes.
like, oh, there's gonna
Right.
and people are talking, oh, there's all these cows that had to be cold because some disease and all. So yeah, it was
Yeah.
and also obviously it was during all this media just heyday of stuff just going rampant on things. But
Right.
so I don't know. I'm glad we anyway, having an endless supply of eggs is a true blessing.
I feel that it's so vital for everyone to understand how to grow their own food to a certain extent. You can grow your own food even in a small apartment. You can grow quite a bit of your own food in a tiny square footage. You just have to get innovative with where your southern light is. If you have southern light, you can grow food.
Sprouts at the
And
minimum.
sprouts are the
Micro.
most nutrient dense food that you can get. We eat a lot of sprouts in the winter because we try to eat as close to seasonally as possible. So sprouts are vital for nutrients in the wintertime, especially when there's less sun. And people, they want more comfort foods. So we top everything as much as possible with sprouts. But I really want to get back into growing them. We haven't in a little while because we've been occupied with other things. But I definitely want to set up another sprout growing system.
Yeah, I had like a whole tray, like a tiered system going where I'd pour water in the top, and I'd kind of tilt the top one so. I think it was mainly oat grass. That was for like the birds we were doing, but it was a lot of.
And
And so
sunflowers.
you'd pour the water in the top, it'd trickle down, go
Mm-hmm.
down the bottom one. That one would tilt back, so you're like watering it all like very minimally. It's very easy.
Yeah. I really love innovating our own systems as well in everything. I really like to just kind of figure it out as I go with, influence with researching from what other people have done, but then to innovate and create our own system according to our homestead here, because every homestead is different, because we all have different variables to contend with. And here we have this, we have a different set of challenges every year, obviously, because of the influence of the outside world as well. But I've wanted to, and we've been on the self-sustainability journey for quite a while. It started in our old house before we moved here. We dug up these nasty, disgusting rose bushes. Both of us can't. We really don't. I mean, I appreciate roses for medicinal purposes, and aromatherapy purposes, but they were a big pain in the ass. And so we dug them all out to build a garden, and we started our first garden together there 6 years ago, and that was really the beginning of everything. Was us making that decision in the middle of suburbia to start our own vegetable garden, and just how easy it can be. It's pretty easy to grow the heartier stuff for yourself, and that can not only there's so many benefits to that, but it really cuts the grocery bill. Like we haven't bought eggs, and the egg industry is just gross anyway. But
Yeah, I just
we
read an
haven't bought
article
eggs in
about
5 years.
how egg prices going up too, and that's something. I mean, we might want to wrap it up. I mean, we're like probably at an hour, but
Hmm.
another thing we could talk about in the future is like our transition from veganism to eating, like harvesting our own, like killing animals, like harvesting animals to, and how the transition of that, like that's a
Right.
whole episode in
That is a
itself.
good
So
point. We
then,
were
cause
devout
I'm
vegans.
trying to remember, did we start that gardening then? Because
We
obviously we
did.
were eating a ton of plants, but I don't remember if that was before or after we. Because the first thing we ate was eggs, and I don't remember if that was before or after
We
eggs.
started
But
gardening before,
okay, because I remember we were growing
uh,
a lot of kale, like
because we had the
broccoli,
vegan
and
business, and we were working on propagating plants and starting to grow sprouts in the old house because we had that great light in the porch. Anyway, yeah, we went from devout vegans and had several different vegan-based businesses to being farmers and hunters and harvesters of meat. So that's been quite a long journey. So if anyone is
never
interested
looked
in how to
back.
transition, but we are still ethical as far as we're as ethically vegan as possible. Like
I mean, yeah, we still eat our
as
greens for
far as
sure, but
practices and source where we source our food from is very important. We try to stay as local as possible.
well, that's good. That's why I started veganism, because I'd see these factory farm videos, and I was like, oh man, I do not want to partake in that. So I took an extreme reaction. So I was like, I'm not gonna eat any animals at all, even though there are better ways to get to eat animals, and the
Yeah.
stuff that's like if it's like what is that farming called, regenerative farming, like there's ways where it's actually
Yes.
beneficial to the land. It's like it's sucking CO2 out of the air versus
Yes.
factory farms like these like shit lakes going around. But
I
so
think we
that
should
was
dedicate a whole episode. This is wonderful. We could even do a two-part because there's so much to this to speak
I'll write it
to.
down.
Yeah, I think
Just
that's a great
vegan
direction to go
all
in.
right, maybe that might be
Yeah,
our
just
next
speaking
episode,
to the
maybe.
evolution of ourselves and how we began
Okay.
in our relationship together. We were both vegan,
All right, so yeah, we
and
can start that, and then
yeah,
we'll ta- I want to bring I like the idea of bringing in, like, because as our week goes we get, because I have a feeling that this is gonna be like comedy, where like all week I'm like thinking about my bits, or I'm like, is this a joke? Blah blah blah. So with podcasting, like if we you just read some article, like this is like just save a tab, or like have
Mm-hmm.
something on, or like a something where you keep everything. So
Right.
we just bring this to it, and then
Right. Because yeah, that's where the eggs came from. That's where we started raising chickens, was that we didn't want to buy eggs anymore, just understanding the egg industry. I became vegan because of my 4-year-old daughter, and she just was waking up to the realizations of the world, and made a decision for herself. So I decided to, and we'll get into that in the episode, but we decided to right then and there to go vegan and to educate ourselves as much as possible. And it's very good short term, but I was vegan for way too long, and it kind of destroyed my bodies in ways that I'd like to speak to, as well as for people, just as a
yeah.
warning, that are long-term vegans, that it can be, it's not meant for everyone to be a lifelong journey, and it definitely was not meant for my own biology, like my own body. It did not react well after several years. It started to break down in ways, and that's not for lack of vitamins or nutrients. I made sure that I was obtaining enough protein. I was very calculated in everything, but coming from
Yeah,
a
as a
personal training
nutritionist,
and nutrition
personal
background.
trainer, yeah.
Exactly, in a nutritionist
Dude,
background.
I'll never forget. We used to like work out hard in that gym, in that garage gym, dude. And I remember, I mean, I would like when I'd work out, I'd get like, not that I'm like bulky, but like back then I would just get like dense. But I remember like once we
Yes.
started eating eggs, like that was the first time I was like, dude, I feel like stronger, dude. I remember I was like
Right.
doing more, and like I could see more, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's we'll speak more on that, but
Almost definitely. And the transition that my body is still acclimating to certain things that it's not used to.
yeah, because I think it's great to detox from something like it, because one of the
Yeah, it's
those
wonderful for
nutrition books
cleansing
you
and
have, yeah,
detoxing
one
a
of those
vegan
ones you
diet.
have is
Yeah.
like almost every time, like if you got this, it was like just don't eat meat or milk or anything, just go like fruits and veggies, and then
Right.
but then but I think the key part is to like then to
Mm-hmm.
reintroduce stuff back into it, because yeah, I just don't think it's long term sustainable, because that's like a recurring theme I see with long term vegans. Is just like year like 5, 10,
Mm-hmm.
that's when like, your body just doesn't break
Yeah.
down, but it's just not as like optimal. But
That would be wonderful to speak to other people that I know that are out there, and I can't think of their names off the top of my head, but that would be wonderful to interview them
ooh,
about their transitions as well, out of veganism and into sustainable practices in growing their own food, if they have, or
I'm
just what their new practices in being an omnivore.
yeah, that was because my first I need to save this for the next episode, but just speaking of guests and authors, but I remember the first guy that kind of got me thinking about switch it, just start like getting out of veganism, was, I can't remember his name. It was like Tofar, not something weird like that, but he had a
Topher.
book called, oh, I'll have to save it for the next episode. But it was about going from a vegan to a hunter, and his whole transition about that. But
Yes,
and
that's
that's the first
beautiful.
thing that got me. I was like, hmm,
Yes,
okay,
yes.
because I'm always open minded. I'm not like just shut things out.
That's
But
what I do
anyways,
love about us, and that I look forward to in the future, is because of
we're open minded.
our open
I'm like
our open
my whole
mindedness.
my whole theory, like saying I always say, is like I'll hear you out. I'll if you got, this is, you're very fanatical about this or
Yeah.
passionate, I'm like, I'll hear you out, but
So if any of you,
I'm not a
right,
dismissive person.
if any of you have some input that you'd like to share with us about your journey or your strong opinion in this or perspective, I'd really like to hear it. If you want to, we'll try to.
This is the perfect time to plug our. We have just find us on what I think we try to get it pretty universal across platforms, but on Twitter, Instagram, we
Mm-hmm.
have a website. Don't go to it yet, but it's
We're
just the
very
burn.
fresh.
Just
There's nothing up
yeah, the
yet.
Burn Bee podcast. Start following us there on Instagram, Twitter. We'll and then yeah, just start reaching
Yes.
out. But so those early followers who already followed us, we see you. We already got like 4 or 5
Oh, I
friends that we already know.
appreciate
So
you
we
so
love you
much,
guys.
loved ones. Yes.
You know who you are.
Thank you.
All right, guys. We love you.
This has been a wonderful experience, and I look forward to the continuing journey with you and with all of you as well. And I can't wait to um, see the progress and evolution of myself and all of us from sharing and growing together. Here's
Hey,
to your holistic
you
journeys.
think we should end every episode with a singing bowl a little bit, and we just transition out?
Mm.
Hope this isn't blowing out your headphones.
It's a little pitchy, but it's okay. It's all love.
All right, guys.
Thank you for listening.
Episode 1 in the books.
Yes, and hopefully thank you for continuing this journey with us and seeing where it all goes, you all. Much love. And
love from the Fringe.
love from the Fringe.
We should have said at the beginning, but love you guys.